My name is Eleanor May Thompson, and I am 91 years old. These weathered hands have held 25 babies, buried 20 of them. And today they still tremble when I speak of the love that has carried me through nearly a century of living. People ask me how I've survived such heartbreak, how I still wake each morning with hope in my chest. The answer sits beside me in his worn leather chair, my Henry, 94 years old now. His eyes still the same deep blue that captured my heart when I was barely 18. We've been back together for 5 years now, after 15 years of stubborn separation that nearly broke what was left of us. But love, real love, finds a way to mend even the deepest cracks. This is our story, a story of joy so bright it could blind you, and sorrow so deep it could drown you, and the miraculous way they dance together to create a life worth living. I met Henry at a church social in 1951. I was 18, and full of dreams about white picket fences and Sunday dinners. He was 21, with calloused hands from working his family's farm, and a smile that made my knees forget how to hold me up. "You gonna dance with me, or just stare all night?" he asked, bold as brass. I took his hand, and I swear I felt the earth shift beneath my feet. We danced to Tennessee Waltz, and by the time the song ended, one knew I'd found my forever. We married 6 months later, in Mama's wedding dress, altered to fit my smaller frame. Henry wore his daddy's best suit, and we promised before God and everyone we knew that we'd love each other through whatever came our way. Lord, if we'd known what was coming, would we have been so eager? Yes. 1,000 times, yes. Because the love we built was worth every tear we'd shed. Our first baby came 11 months after we married. Little James Henry, we called him Jimmy, arrived on a snowy February morning in 1953. I remember Henry pacing the hallway, wearing a groove in Mama's hardwood floors, while I labored in the bedroom. When the midwife finally called him in, Henry took one look at that tiny red face and started crying like a baby himself. "He's perfect, Ellie," he whispered, touching Jimmy's tiny fist with one finger. Just perfect. Those early days were a blur of sleepless nights and infinite wonder. I'd watch Henry walking the floors at 3 a.m., singing off-key lullabies to our son, and my heart would swell so full I thought it might burst. Jimmy was walking by 10 months, talking by his first birthday, and by age 3, he was Henry's shadow, following him around the farm in tiny overalls, asking a million questions about everything he saw. "Why do chickens lay eggs, Daddy? How come the sky is blue? When can I drive the tractor?" Henry answered every single question with the patience of Job, never once telling our boy to hush or go play somewhere else. Those were golden days, when our biggest worry was whether Jimmy would track mud through my clean kitchen. The babies came regularly after Jimmy almost won every year. Mary Rose in 1954, then the twins, Samuel and Sarah. In 1955, by 1965, we had 12 children running around our little farmhouse, and I was pregnant with number 13. People thought we were crazy. "Don't you know what causes that?" they'd ask with raised eyebrows. But Henry and I, we loved our full house. Every morning sounded like a symphony of laughter and arguing, and little feet thundering down the stairs. I remember breakfast was like feeding an army. Henry would be at the stove, flipping pancakes, while I packed lunches and braided hair, and tried to find matching socks for everyone. The older kids helped dress the younger ones, and somehow, by some miracle, we got everyone fed and out the door on time most days. Our dinner table stretched the length of the kitchen, with benches Henry built himself. Grace was a 20-minute affair, not because we were extra religious, but because it took that long for everyone to share what they were thankful for. "I'm thankful for Mama's apple pie," little Tommy would say. "I'm thankful Daddy fixed my bike," Mary Rose would add. And Henry would look at me across that table, full of our children, and mouth, "I'm thankful for you." Those were the richest days of our lives. Even though we barely had 2 pennies to rub together, by 1970, we had 18 children, ranging from baby Catherine to 17-year-old Jimmy. Our house burst at the seams. But somehow, love made room for everyone. Henry had built additions onto our little farmhouse 3 times, adding bedrooms wherever we could squeeze them. The boys shared rooms with bunk beds stacked 3 high, and the girls shared 2, but nobody minded. Privacy was a luxury we couldn't afford, but we had something better: we had each other. Sunday afternoons were sacred in our house. After church and a big Sunday dinner, we'd all pile into the living room. Henry would read from his Bible, and then we'd sing hymns, with Mary Rose playing the old upright piano, and everyone else singing along. I can still hear their voices blending together, high and low, on key and off, but full of joy. Little Catherine would fall asleep in my lap, and baby Joseph would gurgle along from his basket, and the older kids would harmonize like they'd been practicing all week. "Count your blessings, name them one by one," we'd sing, and I'd look around that room at all those beautiful faces and think how I'd need a lifetime just to count them all. Those were the days when my heart was so full it felt like it might explode from happiness. I'd lie in bed at night listening to the house settle, hearing the soft breathing of children in every room, and thank God for the incredible gift of this life He'd given me. The first crack in our perfect world came in 1973. Our sweet Samuel, one of the twins, was riding his bike to town when a drunk driver ran a stop sign. He was only 18, full of plans to marry his sweetheart and take over part of the farm. I remember Henry running into the house, his face white as sheet. "Ellie," he said, and I knew from his voice that our world had just shattered. "There's been an accident. They say you never get over losing a child, and they're right. But what they don't tell you is that you learn to carry the grief like a stone in your chest, heavy but familiar." Samuel's death changed everything: the way we laughed, the way we held each other, the way we looked at each new day. His twin sister, Sarah, grieved so hard she made herself sick. For months, she barely spoke, barely ate. We were so afraid we'd lose her too. But slowly, with time and love and the healing power of family, she came back to us. Though she was never quite the same, we learned that joy and sorrow aren't opposites, they're companions. You can't have a heart big enough for one without making room for the other. After Samuel's death, it seemed like tragedy had found our address and decided to stay. In 1975, we lost little Catherine to pneumonia. She was only 7, with pigtails and freckles, and a laugh that could make angels weep. 2 years later, it was Michael, our 3rd son, killed in Vietnam. He was 23, married for only 6 months, with a baby on the way he'd never meet. Then came the accident that took 3 of them at once: Thomas, Elizabeth, and young Henry Jr., all in the same car, coming home from a church youth trip. The truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. By 1985, we'd buried 8 of our children. 8. Each funeral was a piece of our hearts torn away, each gravestone a testament to love that transcends death. Henry and I grieved differently. He turned inward, spending hours in the barn, working with his hands, trying to make sense of a world that kept taking our babies. I threw myself into caring for the children we still had, cooking and cleaning and hovering, terrified that if I let them out of my sight, they'd disappear too. We stopped talking about anything that mattered. We moved through our days like ghosts, existing in the same house but living in separate worlds of grief. The worst came in 1988. Our oldest, Jimmy, the first baby I'd ever held, the boy who'd made me a mother, died of cancer at 30. He fought for 2 years, and we fought right alongside him, believing until the very end that love could conquer anything. The night he died, Henry and I sat by his bedside, holding his hands as he slipped away. "I love you both," he whispered, with his last breath. "Take care of each other." But we couldn't. We'd forgotten how. Jimmy's death broke something in both of us. Henry started drinking, not a lot, but enough to numb the edges of his pain. I started blaming God, the doctors, Henry, myself. We'd wake up in the same bed but feel like strangers. "Why us?" I'd cry. "Why do we have to keep burying our babies?" Henry had no answers. Nobody did. We'd lost 9 children by then, and each loss had carved away a little more of who we used to be. The children, still at home, watched us fall apart. They needed us to be strong, to show them how to grieve and still keep living, but we'd forgotten how to do that ourselves. In 1992, after 41 years of marriage, Henry and I separated. Not divorced, we couldn't bring ourselves to break the vows we'd made before God, but we couldn't live together anymore either. The house that had once been filled with laughter felt like a tomb. Every room held memories of children we'd lost, every corner echoed with voices we'd never hear again. We walked around each other like wounded animals, too hurt to help and too proud to heal. "I can't do this anymore, Ellie," Henry said one morning over coffee. His hands shook as he set down his cup. "Every time I look at you, I see all the babies we've lost. And every time I look at you, I see the man who's supposed to fix things but can't fix this." I shot back, cruel in my grief. He moved to a small apartment in town. I stayed in the farmhouse with the few children still at home. We divided our remaining kids' time between us, like we were business partners, instead of parents who'd once shared everything. The separation felt like another death. Another loss to add to our growing collection. But we were too broken to know how to mend what was between us. The 15 years we spent apart were the loneliest of my life. The farmhouse, once bursting with life, felt cavernous and cold. I'd cook dinner for 1, and remember when I used to cook for 20. I'd sit at that long kitchen table by myself and hear the echoes of all those voices, all those prayers, all those conversations that would never happen again. During those years, we lost 7 more children. Each funeral, Henry and I would stand on opposite sides of the grave, united in our grief but divided by our stubborn pride. We'd nod politely, ask after each other's health, then go back to our separate lives. Our surviving children begged us to reconcile. "You're both miserable," our daughter, Mary Rose, would say. "Why won't you just talk to each other?" But talking meant acknowledging the depth of our loss, and we weren't ready for that yet. It was easier to blame each other than to face the terrible truth that sometimes bad things happen to good people. And there's no reason, no purpose, no explanation that makes it hurt less. I filled my days with church activities and volunteering, trying to outrun the loneliness. Henry threw himself into his woodworking, crafting beautiful furniture that he'd sell at the local market. We were both running from the same grief, just in different directions. At night, alone in our big bed, I'd pray for the strength to make it through another day. I'd ask God why He'd given me 25 children, only to take 20 of them away. I never heard an answer, but somehow, I kept waking up each morning. In 2015, our daughter, Sarah Samuel's twin, was diagnosed with breast cancer. Suddenly, Henry and I found ourselves thrown together again, taking turns caring for her, sitting in hospital waiting rooms, praying over her sleeping form. One night, after a particularly difficult round of chemotherapy, Sarah looked at us both and said, "I'm tired of watching you two punish each other for something that wasn't either of your faults." Her words hit like a slap. Here was our daughter, fighting for her life, and she was worried about us. "You think Samuel would want this?" she continued, her voice weak but determined. "You think Jimmy would want his parents to spend their golden years apart, too stubborn to forgive each other for being human?" That night, Henry and I sat in the hospital cafeteria, really talking for the first time in years. Not about schedules or medical updates, but about the pain we'd carried, the blame we'd assigned, the loneliness we'd endured. "I never stopped loving you, Ellie," he said, his voice breaking. "I just didn't know how to love you through all that grief." "I know," I whispered. "I didn't know how either." We cried together that night for our lost children, for our lost years, for the love we'd almost thrown away in our pain. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a beginning. Sarah beat the cancer, thank God. And slowly, carefully, Henry and I began to rebuild what we'd torn down. We started with coffee dates, then Sunday dinners, then long walks around the farm where we'd raised our children. It wasn't easy. 15 years of hurt doesn't heal overnight. We had to learn each other all over again, how Henry liked his coffee. Now, how I'd changed my hair. The new lines on our faces that spoke of sorrow survived. But underneath all the changes, we found the same hearts that had fallen in love at that church social so many years ago. We found the same hands that had held babies and wiped tears and built a life together. We found the same love that had created 25 children and survived burying 20 of them. In 2020, Henry moved back to the farmhouse. Not because we'd forgotten our grief, but because we'd finally learned that love is stronger than loss. That forgiveness is possible even after the deepest wounds. That growing old alone is a tragedy when you have someone who's willing to grow old with you. We're both different, NASCAR'd, but still standing. Broken, but still breathing. Grieving, but still grateful for the love we've been given. Today, we have 5 children still living. 5 out of 25, a number that breaks my heart and fills it at the same time. Mary Rose is 70 now. A grandmother herself, with her mother's stubborn streak and her father's gentle heart. She lives just down the road and comes by every day to check on us, bringing grandchildren who fill the house with laughter again. David, our baby boy, is 55 and runs the farm now. He never married, says he's too busy taking care of us old folks, but I think losing so many siblings made him afraid to love too deeply. Still, he's a good son, patient with our failing bodies and endless stories. Sarah, Samuel's twin, survived her cancer and lives every day like a gift. She travels now, sending us postcards from places we only dreamed of seeing. "Life's too short to stay in one place," she says. And she's right. Ruth Ann is 62 and teaches Sunday school at our old church. She has her grandmother's way with children. And her father's steady faith. She brings her grandchildren to visit. And I watch them play in the same yard where their parents and grandparents once played. And then there's our youngest living child, Joseph, who's 48 now. He's the artist of the family, painting beautiful landscapes that capture the light in ways that take my breath away. He says he paints to remember to hold on to the beauty in a world that can be so cruel. These 5 children are our legacy, our proof that love survives even the deepest losses. They carry the memories of their 20 siblings, the stories of brothers and sisters they loved and lost, the knowledge that they are treasured beyond measure. People ask me how I've survived losing 20 children, and I tell them the truth. You don't survive it, you learn to live with it. Grief becomes part of you, like a scar that never quite heals but eventually stops bleeding. Every morning, I wake up and choose to be grateful for the time I had with each of them. Jimmy's 35 years, Samuel's 18. Little Catherine's 7. All of it was a gift, even if it wasn't enough. I've learned that love doesn't end with death. I still feel connected to each child I've lost, still hear their voices in the wind, still sense their presence in the quiet moments. They're not gone, they're just in a place I can't visit yet. The grief never goes away, but it changes. In the beginning, it was sharp and consuming, like a knife twisting in my chest. Now it's more like an old ache in my bones, always there. But manageable, familiar, almost comforting in its consistency. I've learned to find joy in unexpected places. In Henry's laugh when he tells the same story for the 100th time. In a grandchild's smile that looks just like their father's. In the sunset that paints our old farmhouse gold, reminding me that beauty exists even in broken places. The hardest lesson was learning that it's okay to be happy, even when you're grieving. For years, I felt guilty every time I laughed, like I was betraying my lost children's memory. But joy isn't betrayal, it's honoring the love they brought into the world. At 91, I understand now what older people mean when they say time passes quickly. It doesn't feel that way when you're young. When each day stretches endlessly and you think you have forever to do everything you want to do. But time is a strange thing. It moves like honey when you're waiting for something wonderful, and like lightning when you're living something beautiful. The years I spent raising babies felt eternal in the moments, sleepless nights, endless laundry, constant noise and chaos. But looking back, it seems like it all happened in the blink of an eye. I wish I'd known then what I know now, how precious those ordinary moments were. The sticky fingers on my clean walls, the toys scattered everywhere, the noise and laughter and mess of a house full of children. I was so busy trying to keep up that I forgot to savor it. If I could go back, I'd worry less about the housework and spend more time reading bedtime stories. I'd let the dishes sit in the sink and play more games of hide-and-seek. I'd take more pictures, record more of their sweet voices, hold them a little longer before putting them down for naps. But I suppose that's the way it always is. We only understand the value of moments after they've passed. That's why I tell every young mother I meet, the days are long, but the years are short. Pay attention. It goes faster than you think. There's a strength that comes from surviving the unthinkable. A resilience you discover only when life strips away everything you thought you couldn't live without. I never imagined I was strong enough to bury 20 children, but here I am, still breathing, still loving, still grateful for the gift of life. People call me strong, but I don't feel strong. I feel fragile, like a piece of china that's been broken and glued back together so many times that the cracks have become part of the pattern. But maybe that's what strength really is, not the absence of breaking, but the courage to keep going after you've been shattered. Henry and I have held each other up through the worst pain imaginable. We've taken turns being strong when the other couldn't stand. We've learned that love isn't just about the good times, it's about staying when everything falls apart. About choosing each other even when choosing feels impossible. The children, who are still with us, have shown incredible strength. They've grieved their siblings while continuing to live their own lives, love their own families, find their own joy. They've learned that life is both beautiful and fragile, that love is worth the risk of loss, that family is the anchor that holds you steady when storms come. We're all stronger than we knew we could be, and that strength has been the greatest gift in our darkest hours. If I could sit down with my 18-year-old self on her wedding day, there are so many things I'd want to tell her. But mostly, I'd tell her this: love deeply, even though it will hurt. Especially because it will hurt. Life will break your heart in ways you can't imagine, but it will also fill it in ways that take your breath away. The same heart that breaks when you lose a child is the heart that soars when you hold your first grandchild. The same hands that wipe away tears will also clap with joy. The same voice that cries in grief will also sing with thanksgiving. Don't waste time on things that don't matter. The perfect house, the latest fashions, the opinions of people who don't love you, none of it matters. What matters is how you love, how you forgive, how you show up for the people who need you. Take pictures. So many pictures. Not just of the special occasions, but of the ordinary Tuesday afternoons. Of sleepy children at breakfast. Of bedtime stories. Of daddy teaching someone to ride a bike. Those ordinary moments become extraordinary when they're all you have left. Say I love you. Every single day. Even when you're mad. Even when you're tired. Even when they already know. You never know which I love you will be the last one you get to give. And remember that healing doesn't mean forgetting. You can carry your grief and your joy at the same time. You can miss the ones you've lost while celebrating the ones you still have. The heart is bigger than we think, big enough for all of it. Henry and I are ancient now, 94 and 91, with bodies that creak and minds that sometimes wander. But we're together, and that makes all the difference. We spend our days in quiet contentment. Henry still reads his Bible every morning, though he needs a magnifying glass now. I still cook, though our meals are simpler and our appetites smaller. We sit on the front porch in the evenings, watching the sun set over the farm that's been our home for 7 decades. Our surviving children visit often, bringing grandchildren and great-grandchildren who climb on our laps and listen to our stories with wide eyes. They can't quite believe we're their age, that we were ever young, that we danced at that church social all those years ago. Tell us about when you were young, great-grandma, they say. And I tell them about the first time I saw their great-grandfather. About the babies who filled this house with laughter. About the love that's carried us through everything. Henry's hearing isn't what it used to be. And sometimes he asks me to repeat myself 3 times. My arthritis makes it hard to write letters. And sometimes I forget what I was saying. But we're patient with each other's failings. Gentle with each other's weaknesses. After all we've been through, these small inconveniences are nothing. We've survived the unsurvivable together. We can certainly survive getting old. As I look back on this life, I see it as a great circle of love. It began with Henry and me, 2 young people who thought they knew what love was. It expanded to include 25 beautiful children. Each one a miracle. Each one a gift beyond measure. The circles seemed to break when we started losing them. When death came calling again and again. But I understand now that love doesn't break, it just changes shape. The love I have for my children who died didn't die with them. It transformed into something deeper, something eternal, something that connects me to them across the veil between this world and the next. The circle expanded again to include grandchildren and great-grandchildren, in-laws and friends who became family. All the people who've loved us through our darkest hours and celebrated with us in our brightest moments, and now, in these twilight years, the circle is coming full circle. It's Henry and me again, older and wiser and marked by loss, but still holding each other's hands, still choosing love even when love means letting go. Soon, one of us will go first. We don't talk about it much, but we both know it's coming. After all we've lost, you'd think the prospect of losing each other would terrify us. But it doesn't. We've learned that love is stronger than death, that some bonds can't be broken by anything, not even dying. When my time comes, I want to be buried in the little cemetery behind our church, surrounded by 20 of my children. I want my gravestone to say simply, Eleanor May Thompson, beloved wife and mother. Because that's who I am, that's who I've always been, and that's who I'll be forever. As I finish telling this story, Henry is dozing in his chair beside me, his breathing steady and peaceful. The afternoon sun slants through the kitchen window, illuminating the pictures that cover every surface. 5 generations of our family, all connected by the love that started with 2 young people at a church dance. Life has taught me that we're all gardeners, tending the plots we've been given. Some of us get to see our flowers bloom for decades, others watch them get cut down in their prime. But every flower that blooms, no matter how briefly, makes the garden more beautiful. My garden has been both magnificent and heartbreaking. I've planted 25 seeds of love and watched 20 of them be harvested too soon. But oh, how beautiful they were while they bloomed. How they filled the world with color and fragrance and joy. The 5 flowers that remain are still blooming, still bringing beauty to the world, still carrying the seeds of love to plant in their own gardens. And in the cemetery behind our church, 20 flowers wait in eternal bloom, their beauty preserved forever in a place where there are no more seasons, no more dying, only the endless spring of God's love. To anyone who reads this story, I want you to know, life will break your heart. It will test your faith, challenge your strength, bring you to your knees with grief, but it will also fill you with such joy, such love, such wonder, that you'll understand why it's all worth it. Love deeply. Forgive quickly. Hold tight to what matters, and let go of what doesn't. Dance at every opportunity. Say I love you like you mean it, because you do. Take pictures, make memories. Trust that love is stronger than loss, that joy can coexist with sorrow, that even broken hearts can still beat with gratitude. And remember that this life, no matter how long or short, how easy or difficult, how filled with joy or marked by sorrow, is a gift. Every day above ground is a blessing. Every person you love is a treasure. Every moment of happiness is a grace. Henry's eyes are opening now, and he's looking at me with that same love I saw 70 years ago. What are you writing, Ellie? He asks. Our story, I tell him. The story of how love survives everything. He smiles and reaches for my hand, and I know that whatever comes next, we'll face it together, the way we've faced everything else, with love, with faith, with the unshakable knowledge that some things are eternal. The sun is setting now, painting our kitchen golden, and I can almost hear the voices of all our children, all our grandchildren, all the generations that have come from our love. They're calling us home, but not yet. Not quite yet. There's still time for one more sunset, one more prayer, one more I love you whispered in the gathering dusk. And that's enough. That's everything. Tilda and tilde. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. 1 Coríntios 13, 4-8